to Recovering Your Voice. My name's Bonnie.
And I'm Caroline.
And I'm Collette.
And welcome to the very first episode of our fall season. We hope you had a chance to see our new co-host that will be joining us from time to time, Kathy. There's going to be some little videos at the end in our outtakes, so stay tuned for those. A lot has happened over the summer in each of our lives, and we thought we would take some time at our first episode for the fall to tell you what has happened to us over the last 3-4 months. Have you ever had a season where you had great expectations of doing something or participating in something, or something that you looked forward to, and then those were dashed? Well, summertime for me is, and I can probably say this for the girls, is a time where I look forward to things that I don't normally get to do during the year. And this year, our expectations for our summer were completely changed. So how do you navigate those times in our lives? That's our program today.
My summer was probably the most expected of all of us because my husband needed a hip replacement surgery. And we just hadn't known for some months. We were looking forward to it. My husband was hoping for it sooner rather than later. And it was early in the summer, I believe, that he got a date. It would be August 29th. So we were looking forward to it in the sense of preparation. He was in the pool every day because, of course, the more toned you are, the more fit you are going into a surgery like that, the faster the recovery would be from the surgery. And they have various options these days. So Dave had wanted the easiest to recover from, which meant he was, losing some weight and toning up. So the surgery day came and everything went well. We were very thankful for that. But that's where the learning curve began, because all of a sudden, my husband, whose personality style is, I'll do that. That needs doing. I'll get that. Let me get that for you. And so he's always been like that. But now he was coming home with a walker and a cane, and for the first week would have very limited mobility. So I learned that doing my activities, and I didn't do any of my usual exercise activities at all, but simply doing my going and doing that and going and grabbing that, and then his going and grabbing this and going and doing that, added up to more than 10K on my watch. So I learned that you don't need exercise when you are running around doing two people's activities. So that was an eye popper. That was a surprise. And I didn't mean to check it. It just popped up. So that was one learn. And this is something else I learned. Brand new patients are sometimes frustrated with their limitations. They are learning to adapt. I am learning to make allowances for that in communications, because a frustrated patient who's trying to communicate may be a little sharper than they might normally be. So I make allowances for the sharper communications. I have new admiration and appreciation for people struggling with mobility issues. I am learning a slower pace to accommodate safely descending stairs or walking in a store. I have a new understanding now, and not just for my husband, but I used to be the one. I love to just, I'm not a shopper. I don't like shopping. I like to get in there, get it done, get out. So I have in the past been behind someone who was on a scooter or something like that, and or someone who was going slower because of their mobility. And if the way was blocked to pull out and beep, beep, pass, I would just wait. I don't know how patient I was in the waiting, but as soon as there was an opportunity to scoot by, I would and charge on ahead. Well, I've learned a new compassion, and I believe a connection with the person who is on the scooter, so that I think I would rather stop and, communicate to the person on the scooter now than scoot on by and do my quick in and quick out. It's an opportunity to connect to people who are having to learn deep things that we don't all have to learn. Definitely not to adapt to permanently, and some have adapted to this permanently, which I'm also listening to those stories online at present. Myself and my husband were watching some of the Heart of Invictus, which is a story about injured soldiers who have been encouraged and come back to themselves as people and family people by having some motivation again in competing in sport, but at a wounded level. So yes, the people in the chairs are now more important to me than my shopping.
Those are beautiful lessons, Carol Ann, that you wouldn't have normally learned, I expect, in your everyday life.
My summer wasn't exactly what we thought or planned for either. We usually have 2 weeks off in the summer, the last week in July, first week in August, and we affectionately said Danielle was semi-retired because he would take the Mondays and the Fridays off. So we'd have 4-day weekends and 3-day work days. And we're usually at the camp. Didn't turn out like that this year. The first week we had off, a dear person in our life passed away, and we felt that we would like to celebrate her life. So we came back from the camp. The second weekend, Danielle went to his week, of his vacation. Danielle went to Iroquois Falls to get our new car. So that didn't work out either. So the 2 weeks didn't work out. And then the icing on the cake was when one night I went to Chip Time, and I happened to be with Bonnie, and I get a text. I text my husband something, and he responds back, just was running our dog on the bike, got cut off, think the leg's broken. And I text back, Levi broke his leg? No text back yet. So I'm sitting there. And then our friend Colleen says, are you sure it's Levi's leg? And I said, oh my goodness. That was the longest wait I ever had, because I was at Bonnie's. And if I were to go, if it was Levi, I'm almost at Walden Animal Clinic. But if it was Danielle, I need to get back to him. So I'm waiting, thinking I can't do anything. It was the longest. Turns out, audience, It was my husband's leg. And he didn't just break it, they did a really good job. Both bones were broken, and it was broken all the way up. It's been over 4 weeks, and he still can't put weight on it, starting physio and that. But there was some really powerful lessons we're learning through this, really powerful lessons. Oh, and another part of the story is we came back from Danielle's surgery because he had to have surgery to put a plate and pins in. We came back from the hospital with something a little extra, I like to call a party favor from the hospital, that we all got COVID. It was just when COVID was starting to come back. Now, hear me. They were amazing at the hospital, loving, caring. They had no control over that. But it just kind of changed some dynamics and teach us some lessons along the way, too. So I guess for me, I needed a little bit more teaching. So here's the lessons I learned. As Bonnie said in an early episode, take the oxygen first because you can't help anybody else if you didn't have oxygen in the plane. I found this out by I had COVID too. And I was so focused on taking care of Danielle when he came home. I wasn't really taking care of me the way I should have. And I ended up, we'll say falling. I ended up falling. And when I realized that, it woke me up. It woke me up as like to put myself, take care of myself is not self-centered. It's crucial. I can't give or for Danielle what I don't have in my cup. I can't give him a cold drink of water if my cup's empty. So I realized, so I got up and made a banana milkshake and that because I wasn't eating the way I should. So I made sure that my sugars were right and everything was right. So the first lesson I learned was it's not selfish to take care of you because in the overflow, you'll have something to give, but it's very hard to fight against that. The second lesson I learned was that I know that everybody does the gratitude, being grateful, look for the gratitude. And I believe in that. I truly do. I believe attitude is everything. But I always struggled with it. I have to be honest. I always struggled with it because if I'm not feeling it, I feel like I'm lying. So if I'm not feeling the gratitude yet, I'm not saying the gratitude yet. And that's like a catch-22. So this time, though, I said, where's the fingerprints of God in this? Where's the fingerprint? Where do I see God in this? And I'm telling you, that changed everything because God went before us. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. We had no idea Danielle was going to break his leg. However, like I said earlier, Danielle had just went to Iroquois Falls to pick up a car. I didn't have a car, and there's no way Danielle could get in that truck coming and going from physio and everything. So a week before he breaks his leg, I have a vehicle I can drive so I can drive Danielle around. Coincidence? I think not. The month before that, we had my mother-in-law come down and we had saw that the stairs were becoming a little challenging for her. So we had bought a stair lift and had installed it. So Danielle has a stair lift to go upstairs. There were so many fingerprints of God over everything. When I had fallen, when we came home with the COVID, you would think, COVID. Well, it ended up that the day before Danielle had broken his leg, I had displaced my rib. So I'm saying, God, how am I going to do this? My rib's out of place. How am I going to help him get up and help him? And so when I was coughing from COVID one night, I put my rib back in, people. So it's like what the enemy meant for evil, it was turned for good. And then it happened again when I fell. My posture's never been better. So it's almost like the enemy's throwing something, but God's going, I can use this. I can make it into good. And he's been doing that. So look for the fingerprints of God in our life. I'm not saying it's easy, but if where we look, we're going to steer. And I want to see how, God, are you going to use this situation in our life? How are you going to grow us with this? So another thing I learned, so this is the third thing I learned, the gift of Magi. And what I mean by that is that I don't know if you're familiar with the story, but the story is, it's a cute story at Christmas time, that the young couple's married, poor young couple, but they want to bless each other. And she has long hair, so she gets her hair cut and sells the hair and gets him a chain for his pocket watch from his, I believe, grandfather. And he sells his pocket watch to get her combs for the hair. And it's a beautiful love story of sacrificial. However, I say to Danielle, but let's communicate. Let's communicate, because now her hair is short with no things, and now he has a chain with no pocket watch. We need, as you were saying earlier, Carol Ann, we need to communicate. We need to express what we're feeling and be honest with it through these times. For goodness sake, people, have these conversations instead of letting the monkeys drive you crazy. Have a conversation with whoever you're needing to have the conversation with and going, I'm feeling like this. I'm feeling like I'm not measuring up. I'm not doing enough. That's my monkeys, people. And Danielle will go, are you kidding? And he'll speak life into me. Not that it's all about me, but I'm saying you can go down fast if you feel like you're pouring out and it's not enough. So we're having these communication times, which is very important. And as we're learning communication, because we didn't learn it as a child to communicate, say what you mean what you say, and don't say it mean, as Jim Cress says, which I love. I was never taught to say what I mean and mean what I say. So Judy is helping me with that. And we took even a deeper step. Danielle and I are doing some maintenance, making sure that we're getting tune-ups. And we are going to connect with Judy together so we can learn to communicate and say what we mean what we say, and don't say it mean. So I'm excited to see that too. I believe God has some really good gifts for us to unwrap if we dare to. And the last thing we've learned is there's a reason why scripture says laughter is like medicine, because it's shock absorbers in life. And Danielle and I have been laughing and looking for the laughter. And if it's been a rough day, hey, we have YouTube videos for that. The Carol Burnett show, or you know what I mean? Funny animals or whatever. We try to end the day with laughter. And on a side note, I purpose to get Danielle a mobility scooter in case he needs to get away from me for a while, and have his freedom, which is important. I mean, people, when it's mobility, they're grounded. And I'm so thankful that Dave has double portion, because a lot of the equipment that Danielle needed, Dave had, and that's fingerprints of God going before us too. So my heart is, look for God in it. Ask him how he's going to use this. Now, we're not through. That's another episode, okay? We will share after we're through. Don't ask somebody when they're going through it how it is. And please, please, please don't say you need more faith. Not in ourselves. Faith in the character of God, that he is so faithful that there'll be purpose in the pain. There'll be a reason for this season that I am looking forward to, when I can share with you guys all that I've learned through this, but we're still in the middle of it. So grace, people, grace.
Great lessons, Collette. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that. For those who don't know who Judy is, we did a previous episode on psychotherapy, and she is a registered psychotherapist. You can check that out right up here. Can you do that, Collette? So, as I said at the opening, summer is a time where we really look forward to doing a lot of things, including kayaking, going out in the boat, fishing, a lot of fishing, seeing family and friends, traveling down to see my dad in Tennessee. And this year we had booked, or we're going to book a trip out east. We were intended to go out east in 2020, and then 2021 with the pandemic and everything. So, this year it was like, it's a year we're going to go out east. None of those things happened this year. So, in the end of April, my mother-in-law took some falls, and she had 3 trips to the ER by the first week of May. As a result of that, even though she was in a retirement home, she required more care than they could give. So it was up to the family, my husband, myself, and his brothers and sister-in-laws, and some granddaughters, to take care of Mamere. She needed 24-hour care, so someone had to be with her. And so we divided the day into 6-hour shifts, or sometimes that changed, but every day we would usually have to go in, either myself or Dan, and spend time with Mamere and watch over her and keep her safe and look after medical needs. That started in May, and we thought it would be about a week, and it ended up to be 3 months. So we canceled all our plans. There was no way we could go anywhere or do anything. But in that time, we learned some valuable things. First thing that we learned was, this is a season. You know, some of the family members were looking way beyond, and how can we do this? And we'll never be able to accomplish this. And what's going to happen in the fall, and so on and so on. But remember, when you go through something, that it is for a season, and seasons change. And so right from the get-go, God just put that in my heart, that this is a season. Embrace the season, and see it as that, as such. So that's what we did. We took it as a joy to be able to spend time with his mom, with Mamere, and treasure the moments that we had. And the second lesson, besides seeing it as a season, was that it gave us an opportunity to get so much closer as a family. I got to be closer to my sister-in-laws, because we were texting and giving information to each other every day and updates. And so that close communication meant that we were also seeing each other outside of our time with Mamere, either family meetings or just for fun, to unwind. So it brought our family closer together. So that leads me to number 3. Something that author Bonnie Gray says, she calls them love notes. And Collette said, look for the fingerprints of God. Well, love notes are kind of like that. Look for the little unexpected things in your day. So for me, I usually took the morning shift. And so the sun would just be coming up. And I love sunrises. And so I would see a gorgeous sunrise as I drove in, and just thank God for that. Or I'd see mist on the waters in the cool mornings, and I would just treasure that. So looking for those tiny little moments of gratitude, or fingerprints of God, whatever you want to call it, love notes from God, and treasuring those moments, taking that little pause in your day, your hectic times or your disappointed times, and look for those little love notes. So Mamere went downhill, unfortunately, and ended up in the hospice. And I can't say enough about the wonderful care, first of all, in her retirement home, and by the nurses that we had coming in the PSWs, and then from the hospice. And unfortunately, on July the 21st, we lost Mamere, and she joined her family in heaven. And we decided, Dan and I thought, okay, this is the end of July. Maybe we can still go on that trip in August. Maybe we can still do, such and such and such and such. So we had purpose to say, okay, on July the 27th, which was the day after her funeral, summer will begin for us. So we looked forward to that in our mourning, in our grieving, as we missed the mayor. So our funeral came on July the 26th. We had our visitation. We were now going into the service for her funeral. And at that time, my husband had a stroke. So we ended up calling the ER. We ended up in the hospital 5 days. And through all of that, again, the fingerprints of God or the love notes of God were there. I had the most incredible peace that passes all understanding in Philippians 4. That's what I held on to. So I looked for the peace of God. He gave it to me right from the start. I wasn't, of course, I was concerned. Of course, I was a bit numbed by what was happening, but I didn't lose the peace of God. It was there. And I'm sure it was due to the prayers of all the people that were attending and saw what was happening. But the peace of God, hang on to the peace of God, keep Jesus in the window. So, wherever your thoughts want to go, left, right, anxiousness, worst case scenario, keep Jesus in the window. Make sure, like Collette said, where you look is important. So we kept our eyes on Jesus. We kept our eyes on peace, his everlasting peace. So he came through. My husband has come through, but he's now possibly facing another surgery to repair his heart so that he won't have future strokes, because we think this now is a second stroke that he's had. The complication in all of this is that we don't have a family doctor. Our family doctor has closed his practice. And so we are one of those people, like many in Canada or in Ontario especially, without a doctor. So it has created some navigation problems for us to coordinate Dan's continued care. So if you want to pray for us in that area, we would really appreciate it. Allow yourself to grieve, to lament, to cry out to God those things that you are facing, or you're disappointed, or the hurts, or the things you don't understand. God has big enough shoulders to handle it all. And he encourages us to do that, to cry out to him and then see what he can do with it. Like Collette said, give it to God and look for the good that he's going to use this situation for you. And he's faithful. He is a faithful God. He will come through for you in all circumstances.
So if you happen to be going through a time like this, or if you know somebody that's going through a time like this, gently come alongside them, because we have found, as the scripture says, 2 is good, 3 is even better, a triple braided cord. We will support each other, carry each other, and you're not alone. You're not alone. Even if you're housebound or housebound because you're doing caregiving, we are in technology now. Reach out with a Zoom. A phone call is great, but when you can see each other and feel the empathy of me too, or it's okay to feel that way, or if you can vent, which I do with my friends, it's a safe place to just let that pressure valve open. And you know that it's going to be covered in love and grace. So for goodness sake, carry each other. Let's not shame each other, because we're going through seasons, okay?
So if you have something that God has shown you while you've gone through disappointments of life, put it down in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. If you have questions, if you'd like to be on the show, you can write us at recoveringyourvoice @gmail.com. Until next episode, please keep sharing your stories.
Okay, I'll be right back. I got to do this, guys, to set it up. It's a timing of an hour. Okay.
Excuse me, I forgot
Yeah.
my ears.
Oh, I
Sorry,
meant to
we're-
tell her that.
Got it. Okay, I'm going to take those bells off the door.
Oh, that's what that is.
Oh, you could hear it. Yeah, that's the kind of day we're having. Okay, I'll be back.
I thought Christmas was coming.
Yeah, it's like, Santa's sleigh is coming. Okay, I'll be back.
My mouth is not working today.
My brain's not working today.
My muscles are crying out today.
We're a mess.
But we're God's mess.
Yeah.
And if you had any misconceptions that Recovering Your Voice hosts were perfect, sweetheart, can't hear you.
Well, that was a pleasant peace of mind. There wasn't a that you couldn't hear me. Sorry. Yes.
Excellent.
Yes, the dog behaved. That is a miracle.
Give Levi an extra treat for that.
I will. Trust me, I will.
And you know what, sweetie? I love you enough to say, you're a hoot. Let it go on there too, okay?
I'm a hoot.
Oh yeah, let it go. Be yourself. You were a little bit stressed, correct?
Oh yes.
Okay,
extremely.
that's going to lighten
The
up.
first one, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to lighten
We're
up.
all going to lighten up. We're going to relax with being who we are.
Exactly.
And we are going to connect that way.
Yes.
So
Be
we grow from being together, right? So we learn from the things that God is teaching you.
Yeah.
We definitely learn from the things that God is teaching Bonnie.
Absolutely, yeah. And,
right?
Yeah.
And through her book and all
Yeah.
of that. And we'll learn through the things that God is teaching you. And it's not just us anymore.
Right.
It's sharing that real relationship. It's no masks. It's opening up the door and saying, welcome.
My house is a mess, but come on
Welcome.
in. Hey, my
Yeah.
house is a mess, but come on in. It's
Yeah.
not about the house. That's fluff. It's the heart.